Thank you, Nelly, for the introduction. Actually, I'm not going to talk about body storming. It's just one of the techniques I'm using in my PhD research. It's basically bodily equivalent to brainstorming. What I'm going to talk is quite surprise for Nelly. Is not what is written on the website of Art Catalyst. It just Nelly just encouraged, no, not encouraged, forced me to to present my just to talk by performing something using my body storming technique. So. I thought, why not to use my recent essay entitled Non-Fiction of Levitation, or Experiential Reality of Levitation. Something wrong with microphone. Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, you asked me, but you know, things like that happen.
But there's one that works, you see, and one that doesn't.
Actually, I can talk about microphone.
That's good.
So what? Okay, about non-fiction of levitation. I just recently written an essay on experiential reality of levitation, where I I try to answer the question: what is like to experience levitation? Levitation in terms of pure lightness. Levitation or pure lightness between the worlds of mythologies, poetics, sciences and technologies is perhaps the most desired and dreamed invention. And no wonder that its opposite, gravitation, is one of the greatest mysteries in physics. And I would say, idea to say that it's also the greatest mysteries of experience. When it comes to experiential reality, one can hardly say more words than just levitation, something where you are suspended in the air without any solid support. So this insight encouraged me to submit my body to contemporary levitation technologies to find out what it's like to experience levitation. So to bring down the floating ideas of levitation to earth. And what I'm going to do now, I have a bunch of people who are going to be perform levitation. What's very nice sound. Can I introduce my assistants first? There are some group of people who are going to suspend me in the air. And I'll try to survey my essay, where in this essay I'm going through a series of bodily investigations of levitation technologies, like flash hook suspension, buoyancy, neutral buoyancy, aerodynamic levitation, orbiting. Of course, it's very hard to bring all these technologies here, so I have people who are going to simulate. Wow, it's much better. So what I have here, these 5 flashy units that would be part of my levitating simulator. By performing a series of certain choreographies, I'll comment on certain bodily situations in certain levitation technologies, flash hook suspension, neutral buoyancy, aerodynamic levitation, and orbiting. And because of lack of time, I'm going to concentrate only on bodily movements in these modes of levitation, and try to imagine these all the levitations as you would live in them, as you would perform mundane daily activities in these levitations. For example, life-critical activities like eating, defecating, having a sex. I have no time to explain all these experiences in all these aspects of experiences in levitations. But you please try imagine what it would be like to have these life-critical experiences. So let's start from the flash hook suspension. Flash hook suspension is basically a ritual or performance where a performer is suspended in the air by flash hooks put through temporal piercings in certain parts of your body, through skin. I'm not trying to talk about all the sacred stuff and not so sacred stuff, sort of religious stuff which is surrounded around this ritual. I'm going to talk just basically about what it's like to be suspended and where lightness manifests itself. I am going to be suspended in Superman position, which is very popular between beginners. Okay, I am suspended. It's quite painful. You can imagine. I'm suspended by hooks. I feel burning sensations all over my body. But once I settle down, it's quite light because the pain is fading away, and you know, I start to feel lightness. But lightness, as I'd say, psychological lightness, where I start to, because I think of sensory overload, I start to feel that my boundaries of body are dissolving. Okay, it's this lightness I feel now is I don't want my assistants to be aggressive. But basically, what is usually experienced after this painful moment, usually performers experience lightness, which is more like mental space, where they feel their body is dissolving. The awareness of the body is dissolving, is disappearing. But as you know, I am doing scientific investigation here. I start to investigate bodily further what is like to be in this mode of pure lightness. You know, to feel absence of a body is quite rare experience, and I shake my body to unlive in it. And I try even further. I try to turn around, and what happens? I experience extreme pain. because flash hooks are distributed around my body in such a way that each hook has equal amount of weight. So once I do radical movement, I feel extreme pain in particular part. So where lightness ends. Or just even if you can imagine doing any life-critical activity, like, I don't know, I just told you, it would be very hard because you can get entangled in the ropes. So let's skip it. You see that there is lack of lightness when it comes to bodily movement. I'm handing now to neutral buoyancy. Neutral buoyancy is a deep diving situation where the body is at constant depth. It's neither floating nor sinking, so it's maintaining its constant depth. No, not depth. But usually, not usually actually, it's always, it's very hard to achieve it. It requires about 20 or 30 quite demanding sessions to learn how to be in this position, to stabilize yourself in this neutral buoyancy. And it is basically performed in a lying position because it's much easier to perform. And it requires specific bodily movements which would compensate breathing. When you breathe, when you, for example, inhale, you float, you rise. When you exhale, oh, you have to perform. I just forgot. Okay. Okay, I'm inhaling.
You can come and check out.
And I'm trying to compensate it. And okay, down. And you see, it requires specific stabilization. It's quite equivalent to when you're balancing when you're upright. And it's not enough. You have a breathing equipment, diving equipment, which has a so-called buoyancy compensator, where you use this device for injecting gas in artificial bladder when you sink to make you to put more volume in it, and you vent it when you have to float. So what happens here? You have to deal. You have to sort of deal with this cross-coupling of technological, bodily, as well as sort of psychological negotiations to stabilize yourself at constant depth. So where is lightness? There is no lightness because you are really kind of worried about how to keep yourself at constant depth. But it might become automatic as automatic situation is when we stand, when we deal with balancing. And again, when I try to investigate bodily further, for example, I don't know, standing up, for example, I just rise or sink. It's super hard to maintain this constant depth. So, not much light. not so much light experience. Skip it. Let's go to flash.
When you fall.
No, free falling. Aerodynamic levitation. It's basically based on wind tunnel, vertical wind tunnel. Vertical wind tunnel is a huge vertical wind tunnel. It's a huge tunnel with a fan beneath a latticed floor, which blows at the speed of 200 kilometers per hour, which is very close to terminal velocity. Which terminal velocity, average of terminal velocity of falling human body belly downwards. Sort of skydiving simulator. Let's experience it. When I'm standing, I am not lifted up because there is not enough bodily surface to resist. But once I lean forward, and you see, I'm stabilizing myself in the air, but I'm not very good, and I'm just falling down. So it requires certain stabilization, certain compensation, because any subtle movement of a body shape, certain gestures are controlling your position, orientation in space. Any slight movement of finger might set myself into turbulent movement. I'll show you one for example, one gesture which turned me around. Like this. I'm like a pinhole. No, not a pinhole. Sorry. Windmill. Okay, there is no need for microphone. Okay, next. I can make other movements. Okay, that's fine. You see the. Oh, sorry.
The chair belongs to the.
Oh no, it's another experience. So basically, when it comes to locomotion or orientation in space I mean this aerodynamic levitation, you no longer use just your legs. You use specific, I would say, finger choreographies. Where even just using fingers, you can control yourself. You can propel yourself forward, backward, left, right, and so on and so on. But my body is here supported basically by air cushion. It's still sort of, I feel, I'm aware of my body weight because I'm supported because of the contact with air. Let alone my innards, my guts. These are not involved in this experience, which could be experienced in orbiting. In orbiting is basically take orbiting object. Orbiting object is circling around the Earth at such a speed that produces extreme centrifugal acceleration, which would cancel out gravitation. So basically, you follow the curvature of the Earth, and you perpetually fall without crash. Just fall. I would say it's the purest lightness where you can get today. But suppose now I'm in International Space Station. I'm a newcomer. I try to move in space. What I'm trying to do first, as many beginners do, I try to swim or fly. what happens here, I get hurt, lots of bruises, and it doesn't work at all. Okay, I'm falling down. It doesn't work at all because airplay choreography does not apply to outer space. You have to practice a lot, but to practice, practicing is not enough. You have to deal with either a certain language of choreography or even the basics of physics. Take a center of mass of your body, which is very important in moving in outer space, because in order to avoid unwanted rotational movements when you just propel yourself by leaning against stuff around, you find yourself just going around, you are disoriented, you are dizzy, you are vomiting, and nothing works. But once you become aware of the center of your mass, you can control your body quite smoothly and in a controlled way. What I'm going to show. Are we going to show how to find center of mass? Yeah. No, maybe. Or you can turn the body around its axis, and if it's it goes out of axis or turns in few dimensions, not the few circular axis at the same time. It's okay. Let's. No. Okay. We can start from. I'm aware of the center of the mass of my body, and now what I do, I actually find that my center of mass is beneath what's the word? Belly button. Beneath belly button, and now I lean against the surfaces of station, close to my center of the body. Now we can propel myself actually. But bring me down. I have to explain one thing. What I do, I just keep my hands close to the center of mass of my body, and I try to propel myself close to the center. It helps me to avoid unwanted rotational movements. But what's very interesting here, lightness occurs, or it manifests itself in lightness of movement. I can do any movement with slight push, slight lean. We are going to demonstrate it. On the other hand, you have to be of absolutely different kind of motoric or different space of movement. For example, if I try to unscrew nut, what's the word? Screw bolt? Yeah, unscrew bolt. I find myself screwing myself around, turning around. It doesn't work on Earth. I have to anchor myself somewhere, and then I can turn around the object. So let's show what it's like to move in outer space, just with slight. Okay, bring me lower. Okay, where can I?
You touch. Okay, let's touch.
I need more.
Touch, but maybe.
That's how it works. Thank you. But there is actually there is some awareness of your weight. not a weight of mass, because mass is not eradicated or sort of dissolved. Once you push against any object, otherwise how can you move? You become aware of inertia of your body. So that's how weight manifests itself in weightlessness. Do I have to? No? Okay. So okay, I just tried to now to summarize and to
Do your final.
do conclusion, yes. What I'm trying to say by going through all these experiential investigations of certain levitations, that there is no such a thing as levitation we imagine. It's a sort of intangible concept. Levitation or pure lightness is actually experienced by dealing or negotiating between weightness and lightness. So yes, so in a way there is no such a thing as pure lightness, especially when we think of pure lightness of angel or any other kind of concept found in mythology or poetry. But on the other hand, all these experiences are technologized. I think orbiting or space station is a very good example. One very interesting philosopher, Peter Sloterdijk, how to pronounce Sloterdijk, once said that the cosmonaut, not astronaut, cosmonaut is emancipated from gravity because she or he never lives a fraction of time without life supports. So it means that we are attached to these technologies to be to feel lightness, and technologies are not lightness at all. We have to maintain them. We have to work with them. We have to compensate certain disabilities of technologies, as well as in terms of stabilizing levitation, which is not very light at all. And please, any questions?
Catalyst, thanks a lot. And I think we can. Yeah, question.
Yeah, we have some questions.
Okay, well, 2 question marks, huh? Yes.
No, just in terms of demonstrating body movement, mass, and rotation. There are some. I don't know if you've seen some very good films from Skylab, the first American space station, where they demonstrated actual rotation and movement, weightless acrobatics.
Yeah, I can make a few notes on this. But the essay I've just written on these kind of experiential realities of levitation is basically a huge mass of information of what is like to experience it. But I just wanted to bring it in a easy reading experience. So I fictionalized that it's me who experienced all these sessions. So to sort of to facilitate just reading experience, but also to make easier grasp of experiential essence, what it's like to experience that. And in the end, I confess myself that I just, I deceived you just because of, but deception in terms of just of storyline. The empirical or sort of experiential background or basis is real. I read lots of forums, I talked with people who experience for real and so on and so on. So it's just a storyline which is fiction here, in case you didn't understand. No questions?
how many of the demonstrations have you actually experienced? You say none.
Some of them, parachuting, like bungee jumping, but basically you can say none. Yeah.
None.
None, you can say none. It's the best.
Because you should, you know.
Yes, but it's very hard to get into orbit. Actually,
but for example, you can do the diving ones very easy.
Yeah. It's not easy to get to land in neutral buoyancy. It requires quite a lot of time,
Yeah.
and not everybody lands it.
And there's the skydive thing.
Yeah, that one for sure. But you know,
I'm just interested if you've actually done it.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be a second version of the same. But what I was very interested in well, I'm doing phenomenological analysis of these levitations, a sort of experiential analysis of these situations. And what I'm interested in interpersonality. Me, it's not enough. I need lots of experiential data to find what is the essence of it. It wouldn't be enough just to go along to do all the stuff. Some people, for example, are spending 40 years for skydiving and doing neutral buoyancy. I don't mean that they spent 40 years on neutral buoyancy. It's impossible. But I mean that they know it much better than you can.
Yeah, because you're using it as a kind of choreography. I mean, you mentioned choreography, so it's like a notation. So it's almost like you're taking those methods of levitation as a kind of score for levitation for you to interpret. Yeah.
It's basically experiments to, it's basically experiment in terms of dealing with audience. How can, just by telling what it's like to experience and dealing with bodily experience, I wouldn't say maybe, that it's a huge success in doing this, but because I'm not performer, I'm not choreographer, I would be interested to take a choreographer who would do it professionally, to bring this bodily experience to audience, to kind of to amplify empathy with that. It's sort of method of dealing with audience rather with content itself.
Can I just shout out a technology thing in diving? That you can get, they're very dangerous, but you can get artificial lungs to dive with, which don't have that effect of rising up and down, because the volume of air stays exactly the same.
Okay,
just
so
the air is cleaned by filters.
Okay.
And you just control the level of oxygen. So the actual volume of gas is always the same.
Okay.
So you can actually be perfectly neutral buoyant, neutral buoyant.
Okay, but in a way that when you move in water, your bodily movements are not constrained, hampered. It's very hard to move. It's because of water resistance or liquid draft. You start to feel that wow, I have my body, it's resisting, and where weightiness or burdensomeness manifests itself. Yeah, you can imagine what it would be like to live in this kind of situation. It's very hard. I think that.